All right, welcome back to Not Financial Advice. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Walgreens Boots Alliance, the company and the price of their stock. And we're going to end the video by trying to get an understanding of what a fair value estimate for Walgreens is on a per share basis. Right now, I'm going to ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Additionally, if you can go ahead and look for the gear icon in the bottom right of the video. This video is able to be played at 1080p. I'm still working on my process to make sure that the video shows up as clearly as possible so you can see some of the fine financial details and numbers here. So Walgreens Boots Alliance, we're going to take a look at the price of the stock to start, and just have a very high level conversation about what this company is. So everyone knows what Walgreens is. It's a neighborhood pharmacy. They also own a similar business in the UK named Boots. Um, Within a given Walgreens, obviously you have a pharmacy. They sell convenience items. So it's a place that you might go to pick up your prescriptions on a Monday morning, or on a Saturday night, go for ice cream and contraceptives. Okay. Also, tobacco products are sold. A segment or a portion of the store is set aside for makeup and things of that nature. So pretty good business. When I think about businesses such as Walgreens or Verizon or Netflix, places that I routinely or on a monthly basis am paying money out to, the thought arises to me, if I'm paying these companies part of my wages and my income, maybe I should own them as well. And so, this is Walgreens, and it's pretty straightforward. But we're going to look at some of these numbers. And as far as the price of the stock today, $22.50. We have the understanding that the price of a stock can fluctuate up and down and up and down. But the fair value moves essentially in a straight line. And there's going to be times when you're buying the stock under or overvalued. So just in drawing a trend line here, we can see that um, uh, for long periods of time, the stock might actually have been undervalued, and it's had a lot of negative sentiment that's drawn the stock down about 75% from all-time highs. So just sort of looking at a trend line here, we can kind of see, where the stock is. There were many times around the financial crisis where it was trading fairly. Around the dot com crisis, it may have been a really great entry point as well. And with this recent sell-off, the question is going to be today, is this a good entry point or a position that you would want to hold and average down from? So let's get rid of this little tool here. Um, and we're going to look at the max drawdown. So like 76%. Okay. So this is the price of the stock, $22.50. Let's get back over here to Qualtrum and see what we can do to figure out what the actual value of the company is on a per share basis. We're going to start right away by looking at metrics, and then I'll also make sure to ask you to go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you hadn't, and make sure that if you're wanting to see this in higher quality, you click that gear icon and click on 1080p. So as far as the company's metrics, trading at a forward PE ratio of 8.8, so very low on a PE multiple. We're also seeing this is going to be a large cap value stock with a market cap of 19 billion. Um, Currently with a very high starting dividend yield of 8.7%, which may not be a safe dividend at this time. Let's get in here and take a look at revenue. So as we're looking at revenue, we can see revenue on the company on an all-time basis is moving up into the right. I think there may have been some acquisitions that happened around here where you saw this big jump in revenue, but the company's been moving up into the right. Revenue looks pretty good. COVID with testing and vaccines was a good thing for Walgreens, but that's coming down a bit. But overall, we see revenue moving up into the right. So that's a check mark. Let's take a look at free cash flow on a stock-based compensation adjusted basis. So overall, the cash flows of the company are positive. Company's producing free cash flow. Moving up into the right, definitely some choppiness and some declines in free cash flow. So this would sort of be a neutral mark here for this company, but one that does produce free cash flow and can be valued based on that. Let's take a look at shares outstanding. We like companies that buy shares back, and that's what Walgreens is doing. And seeing some good declines in the price of the stock, they've accelerated their share buybacks. So that's a strong check mark, you guys. Taking a look at ratios, we like companies that can either take our investor dollars or debt issued through bonds, reinvest those monies profitably back into the company. And this one's a big fat red X check mark, not looking great. So a current ROCE of around 5 to 7% is below average, and it's not great. And it's a little bit of a flashing warning sign on the company. They're having some problems with continuing growth profitably. Another thing that we can do to look at valuation, I mentioned different times which the stock has traded at a good price. So the valuations around the dot-com crisis on a relative PE basis were higher, but here around the financial crisis, we had similarly low valuations, which was a good entry point. And today, this will be sort of a neutral test on the company, trading at a historically low relative PE valuation. So either a value stock or a value trap. That's for us to understand, decide, and figure out together. So a couple more notes on the company. Um, they have done some initiatives with some cool things with point of sale display where it can have like a digital presentation of what's behind the cooler. They've got a really good mobile app with curbside pickup, a rewards and loyalty program, as well as a store card where they charge high interest rates, which is good for shareholders. Um, there's a chance that this can be disrupted by Mark Cuban or Amazon with digital online or direct to consumer um, pharmacy businesses. At the same time, Walgreens is building out different distribution centers to sort of automate to an extent or to potentially ship out prescriptions. So they're trying. They're not just resting on their laurels. They're working. They're trying to do different things, and they've done some acquisitions of some things that haven't panned out just yet, but kind of minute clinics that would be attached to different Walgreen locations. And I think that's a good idea. I like the idea of it. It's just not materializing as of yet, but I feel somewhat hopeful about it. So, also, we should note there's a departure of the recent CEO, who was a pretty great lady. So, that's caused a little bit of a sell off here in the market in the last month. This was probably right around when the CEO was, making a departure, a 15% drawdown, and the stock has come back 5%. But overall, we've seen this price chart. Now let's figure out the value. Okay. So coming back in here, the last thing we'll do is we'll take a look at any insider activity. Um, Insiders can sell shares for any reason. The only reason they buy them is because they think that the price is going to go up. So this is always a good thing to look at with Qualtrum. And then, as always, and a disclaimer, with the link provided in the description below, Qualtrum is a suite of software I use to analyze stocks. I pay for the software. I like it, but I have no affiliation with Qualtrum, just to make that clear. But I will leave the link to Qualtrum in the description below. So if you'd like to gain access to this software, the same one that I use, you'd be able to sign up for that. Okay. And looking at the stock, any insider buying or selling, we can see just some different company-wide type transactions and awards. But all that we're really seeing is a purchase several months ago by an insider bought $150,000 of Walgreens shares at a price of $28. Let's figure out what the value of this $22.50 stock is. Now, I want to do another disclaimer here. There are some debates, and I'm a little bit unclear or unsure about the best way to count capital leases when doing DCFs. So I'm only counting long-term debt on Walgreens in this valuation because of some of the things that are up in the air with their possession of Boots, a company in the UK, the departure of their CEO, their declining returns on capital employed. We are going to go ahead and value this company based on the data we found in Qualtrim. So an average free cash flow of around 4.3 billion last 5 years, cash on hand about 2.5 billion, total long-term debt nearly $9 billion, which is pretty high. Data from Qualtrim, shares outstanding 865 million. I went ahead and just put in some placeholder, just some reasonable assumptions of growth rate, pretty low, pretty conservative, I think, at 1% across the board, and then a 10% discount rate. So price of the stock, $22.50. This is going to be on a 10% discount rate, which is what I use at a baseline. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Price 22.50, value as much as 48. I think based on the life cycle of the company and the lower returns on capital employed, I think a higher discount rate or required rate of return would be appropriate on a deeper value investment of this nature. And at a 15% required rate of return with all of the other same valuable variables from Qualtrim, I'm seeing a value of $28, which will be where you remember that insider just made a purchase. So I think the shares are slightly undervalued. I own Walgreens. I'll continue to own Walgreens. I think the revenue is moving in the right trajectory. I think they have some really good real estate locations. They're usually at very busy intersections. I think it has decent brand value. I think there's a chance of it being disrupted, but they're doing things to try to stay competitive. And so I'll remain long on Walgreens Boots Alliance, but do watch out for that dividend. They need to work on their profitability to make sure they can maintain that dividend. So, folks, on your way out, make sure to hit like, share, subscribe, turn bell post notifications on. Again, if there are any companies you'd like for me to take a look at, just go ahead and drop that ticker symbol in the comment below, and I'd be more than happy to do a review of a stock and evaluation on a stock for you. Just let me know. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.